It was a clear morning, the kind of morning pilots dream about: vast blue skies stretching endlessly, sunlight glinting off the wings of every plane in the air, a perfect day for flying. But on this day, what began as ordinary would transform into an extraordinary story, a tale of survival, quick thinking, and the sheer limits of human courage. Most people think that when two massive planes collide in midair, the outcome is instant disaster. Crashing, fire, chaos, the headlines would write themselves. And yet, in this story, the impossible happened. Against all odds, the plane survived, and not only did it survive, it landed safely. To understand the full magnitude of what occurred, you need to picture the scenario. A bustling air corridor, military and civilian planes crisscrossing the sky in carefully calculated patterns. Every pilot is trained to follow strict protocols, but in the split second that these two aircraft met in the air, training, experience, and instinct collided with the unthinkable. The sound of metal grinding against metal, the shudder running through the fuselage, the panic of passengers, all of it set the stage for one of the most remarkable survivals in aviation history. What makes this story even more incredible is the type of aircraft involved. These weren't small, maneuverable jets where pilots could rely solely on reflexes to avoid catastrophe. We're talking about large, heavy aircraft, machines that weigh tons, planes that once in motion carry the inertia of entire histories, entire missions, entire crews. For a plane like this to remain intact after a mid-air collision is not just rare, it is nearly miraculous. Aviation experts often say that if a collision occurs above a certain speed or at a certain angle, survival is statistically almost impossible. And yet that day, statistics were defied. The collision itself was sudden, violent, and disorienting. One moment, the pilots were navigating calmly, checking instruments, maintaining altitude, communicating with air traffic control. The next, they felt the wrenching impact, a crunching, twisting force that no training could fully prepare them for. The aircraft lurched violently, spinning slightly, yet somehow, despite the damage, the plane remained in the air. It was an eerie moment of surreal calm, the kind that happens when adrenaline floods the body and time seems to slow. The cockpit crew had only moments to assess the situation, to decide between emergency maneuvers or preparing for the worst. Passengers, many unaware of exactly what had occurred, felt the plane jolt and sway, heard the terrifying groan of stressed metal, and saw the panic in the eyes of flight attendants trying to reassure them. In those terrifying seconds, human instinct, both fear and courage, was pushed its limit. Every decision mattered, every action had consequences. And here, the contrast between chaos and calm, between disaster and survival, becomes striking. While the sky above was a battleground of forces no one could control, inside the cockpit, one man, or one team, was orchestrating what would become a masterclass in crisis management. The pilot's training kicked in immediately, but so did something else, a level of intuition that comes only from years of experience. He didn't have the luxury of time for careful calculations or second guesses. Instead, he relied on split-second assessments: what was damaged, what systems could still be trusted, which controls remained functional. His mind raced through possibilities. Would the engines hold? Could the hydraulics still respond? What about the landing gear? Each question could mean the difference between life and death, and yet, with a remarkable clarity, he began charting a path to survival. Meanwhile, the flight attendants were performing what could only be described as heroic improvisation. Emergency protocols, normally drilled for standard incidents, were now being adapted on the fly. Calm, confident commands were given to passengers: remain seated, brace for impact, follow instructions. Even amidst fear, chaos, and uncertainty, there was structure, and in that structure, hope. The juxtaposition is stark: a plane riddled with damage, shuddering in the sky, and yet inside, human resilience shines through. Air traffic control, initially struggling to understand the situation, became another critical element of survival. Communications crackled through, instructions were given, and crucial information was exchanged. The controllers, far below the chaos, played an invisible but essential role. They helped guide the pilot, helped him make decisions on altitude, approach paths, and emergency procedures. The human network, combined with technical skill and sheer luck, began weaving together a survival story that would be retold for decades. As the plane slowly stabilized, the reality of the situation became clear. The collision had caused structural damage that no pilot would wish to face. Part of the fuselage was dented, control surfaces were impaired, and the engines were operating at reduced efficiency. Yet the plane continued to fly. Step by step, maneuver by maneuver, the pilot fought against gravity, against physics, against the very odds that had made experts shake their heads in disbelief. The tension in the cockpit was palpable, the focus absolute. Every move was calculated, yet performed with almost artistic precision under pressure that would have shattered most. Outside, the world might have seemed calm. A serene sky, soft clouds drifting by, but inside it was a battle against time and nature itself. The contrast between the beauty of flight and the terror of disaster is striking, a reminder of the thin line between triumph and tragedy. And as the plane began its slow descent toward an airstrip prepared for emergencies, passengers clung to hope, crew clung to training, and the pilot clung to sheer willpower. It is here that we must pause to appreciate the human element in this story. Technology and engineering are essential, but they are not sufficient without human ingenuity and courage. The plane's survival is a testament not just to design, but to the people who operate these machines. The skill, composure, and experience of the crew turned a potential catastrophe into a moment of triumph. Every successful adjustment, every precise maneuver, added inches to survival, moments to hope, and ultimately lives to be saved. And then, as the runway came into view, there was a collective exhale. The pilot aligned the plane, careful to account for damage, crosswinds, and the potential for further mechanical failure. The landing was tense, measured, and executed with extraordinary precision. Wheels touched the tarmac, the brakes engaged, and the plane, battered but intact, rolled safely to a stop. The cabin erupted in relief, applause, tears, and gratitude. It was a landing that defied the odds, a landing that would become legendary in aviation circles, a landing that would be analyzed and studied for decades. In the aftermath, investigations would reveal the exact chain of events, the moments that could have gone wrong and the decisions that had saved lives. Every minor action, every second of composure, every instance of courage contributed to a story that would be retold with awe. Pilots and aviation enthusiasts would marvel at the resilience of the aircraft and the skill of the crew. Experts would dissect the flight, analyzing structural integrity, response times, and emergency procedures. And yet, amidst all the technical analysis, one truth would remain. This was first and foremost a human story, a story of calm in chaos, courage under pressure, and the indomitable will to survive. It is easy to read about mid-air collisions and imagine only tragedy. But this story proves that even in the face of overwhelming odds, survival is possible. It is a story that reminds us of the fragility of flight, the precision required to maintain it, and the extraordinary capacity of humans to rise above fear and uncertainty. And as we tell this story, we honor not only the plane that survived, but the crew that refused to let disaster dictate the outcome. From takeoff to landing, from chaos to calm, this is more than just a tale of aviation. It is a testament to the human spirit, to training, to courage, and to the incredible ways in which ordinary people can accomplish extraordinary feats when the stakes are highest. And as you imagine yourself in the cockpit, fighting against gravity, damage, and doubt, it becomes clear. Survival is never guaranteed, but determination, skill, and courage can tip the scales in ways that seem almost impossible. After the plane finally touched down safely, the adrenaline didn't immediately subside. Outside, emergency crews rushed toward the aircraft, prepared for the worst. Fire trucks, ambulances, and first responders were on standby, their sirens silent but ready. Inside, passengers slowly processed what had happened. Many were shaking, some crying, some staring blankly at the ceiling as if trying to reconcile reality with the sheer terror they had just survived. The human response to crisis is as fascinating as the incident itself. Hearts racing, palms sweating, minds whirring with fragments of fear, disbelief, and finally, relief. And yet, for the crew, the experience wasn't over. Even after landing, they needed to manage the situation, reassure passengers, and ensure everyone disembarked safely. The investigation that followed would reveal exactly how unusual this event was. Aviation experts determined that the collision had occurred at a critical point in the flight path, an altitude and speed combination that made conventional evasive maneuvers nearly impossible. The impact caused significant damage to the wings and fuselage, compromising lift on one side and reducing engine efficiency. Normally, a plain eye in such a condition would have spiraled uncontrollably toward the ground. Yet, through an almost miraculous combination of pilot skill, calm decision-making, and precise control inputs, the aircraft remained airborne long enough to glide to a safe landing. Experts called it one of the most extraordinary survivals in modern aviation history. Passengers, meanwhile, had their own stories. Some spoke of the initial jolt, describing it as if the plane had been hit by an invisible hammer. Others recounted the eerie silence that followed the collision, broken only by the groaning of the aircraft and the calm, authoritative voice of the pilot over the intercom. Flight attendants became lifelines, guiding terrified passengers, giving instructions, and even physically assisting those who were too panicked to move on their own. It was a testament to human resilience, ordinary people rising to the occasion when the stakes were unimaginably high. One passenger, a young father traveling with his child, later recounted the moment with vivid clarity. He described how he instinctively held his child tight as the plane lurched, bracing for impact. He admitted he had never prayed so intensely in his life, and yet he also noticed the calm, deliberate professionalism of the crew. That balance of fear and trust is central to understanding why this story became legendary. People often underestimate the importance of composure in crises. Panic spreads, but calm spreads too, and in this case, it saved lives. Meanwhile, the crew's actions were being examined frame by frame. Pilots, engineers, and safety analysts all wanted to understand the decision-making process. Every control input, every throttle adjustment, every minor correction to the plane's attitude was scrutinized. They discovered that the captain had made a series of micro-adjustments, tiny, precise movements of the yoke, subtle engine throttling, that collectively kept the plane stable. What might appear in hindsight as luck was, in fact, the culmination of years of training, experience, and instinct honed under pressure. Another fascinating element was the role of the aircraft itself. The plane's design, materials, and engineering tolerances contributed to its survival. Aviation engineers often refer to structural redundancy, meaning that critical components are built to withstand extreme stress beyond what they normally experience. In this case, the aircraft's construction allowed it to absorb the impact without catastrophic failure. The wings, though damaged, maintained enough lift. The engines, though partially impaired, provided sufficient thrust, and the fuselage, though dented and twisted, remained pressurized and structurally intact. It was a rare combination of human skill and engineering foresight that made survival possible. The collision also highlighted the importance of communication. Air traffic controllers had been guiding the plane even during the crisis, offering altitude adjustments and emergency landing options. These ground-based decisions, combined with the pilot's actions in the air, created a synchronized response that mitigated further risk. In aviation, the margin for error is razor-thin. One wrong instruction, one missed signal, could have transformed survival into tragedy. The coordination between air traffic control, the cockpit crew, and emergency personnel on the ground exemplifies a well-functioning system operating under extraordinary stress. In the days following the event, the story spread rapidly through media outlets, aviation forums, and social networks. Headlines praised the crew's heroism, speculated on the miraculous engineering, and shared passenger testimonies. Yet beyond the sensationalism, there was a deeper lesson. Preparation and human skill can overcome extreme odds. Many aviation professionals used the incident as a teaching example, demonstrating how training, composure, and experience interact with mechanical systems to create a safety net. And for the general public, the story resonated because it wasn't just about planes. It was about courage, resilience, and the unpredictable ways ordinary people can rise to extraordinary challenges. Interestingly, psychological studies conducted on the passengers revealed patterns of acute stress followed by rapid adaptation. The human brain, when confronted with sudden, life-threatening events, shifts into survival mode. People report heightened focus, rapid decision-making, and an acute awareness of their surroundings. While fear was omnipresent, so was an unexpected clarity. Some passengers later described being hyper-aware of escape routes, the nearest emergency equipment, and the behavior of crew members. This blend of fear and heightened perception is what often allows people to survive disasters. Meanwhile, aviation safety boards analyzed the sequence of events to prevent future collisions. They reviewed flight patterns, radar data, and communications. Recommendations include stricter altitude separation, better coordination for congested airspaces, and enhanced pilot training for emergency scenarios. In other words, the lessons from this incident extended far beyond the immediate survival story. They contributed to safer skies for millions of passengers worldwide. The contrast here is striking. A single near disaster not only became a tale of heroism, but also a catalyst for systemic improvement in aviation safety. As for the crew, the aftermath was both exhausting and rewarding. Months of debriefings, media interviews, and peer evaluations followed. Yet what mattered most to them was not the fame or recognition, but the knowledge that every life on board had been preserved. The passengers' gratitude, the families reunited, and the relief of having navigated the unthinkable left an indelible mark on their careers. It is often said that pilots are calm under pressure by necessity, but this story illustrates that calm can be learned, honed, and in critical moments can save dozens of lives. The plane itself became a symbol of resilience. Engineers, aviation enthusiasts, and even casual observers marveled at how it had survived structural trauma that would have destroyed lesser aircraft. Museums and safety boards studied its design, while stories of its survival became case studies in both aviation schools and leadership seminars. The narrative extended beyond mechanical engineering into psychology, crisis management, and teamwork. Every aspect of the event, human and mechanical, was intertwined, demonstrating that survival is rarely about a single factor. It is about the integration of preparation, skill, courage, and decision-making. Perhaps the most striking aspect of this story is how it forces us to reconsider our understanding of risk and probability. Most experts would have predicted disaster. Statistically, mid-air collisions are catastrophic. Statistically, survival in this scenario was extremely unlikely. And yet, human action, focused, precise, and brave, altered the outcome. It is a reminder that while statistics define general expectations, human intervention can rewrite the script. The line between catastrophe and survival, chaos and control, often rests on the narrowest of margins, and in this case, that margin was navigated with extraordinary precision. As the story circulated, aviation schools began using it to teach not just technique but mindset. Pilots were reminded that mechanical skill is essential, but so is the ability to remain calm under pressure. Crew members were shown how teamwork, communication, and preparation can transform a potential disaster into a survival story. And passengers, too, could take lessons from it. Stay aware, follow instructions, and trust the trained professionals whose actions can mean the difference between life and death. In the immediate aftermath of the collision, investigators and aviation enthusiasts alike were struck by one critical question. How did the pilots manage to maintain control when the plane had sustained catastrophic damage? Flight data recorders and cockpit voice recordings revealed a tense but astonishing sequence of events. Within seconds of the collision, the aircraft began to roll slightly to the left, a natural consequence of the damage to one wing. The captain, drawing on decades of experience, counteracted this with subtle, precise control inputs. Every small adjustment of the yoke, every minute change in engine throttle, was a carefully calculated effort to stabilize the aircraft. This wasn't a lucky guess, it was instinct refined through countless hours of flight. The co-pilot's role was equally critical. While the captain managed the controls, the co-pilot communicated with air traffic control, relayed information to the cabin crew, and monitored instruments for any sudden deviations. In high-stress scenarios, human error is often the most dangerous factor. But in this case, the duo functioned as a seamless team, each aware of the other's responsibilities and acting with unwavering precision. The level of coordination was remarkable. When the plane's instruments began signaling warnings, fuel pressure drops, hydraulic anomalies, the pilots calmly prioritized actions, following emergency protocols while maintaining the focus necessary to land the damaged aircraft. Passengers trapped in the cabin were largely unaware of the technical details unfolding in the cockpit. For them, it was an emotional roller coaster of fear and disbelief. Many described hearing a loud crack or feeling a sudden jolt, followed by the plane shaking and groaning under stress. Oxygen masks deployed briefly as a precaution, though the cabin's pressurization system remained largely functional. Flight attendants immediately moved into action, instructing passengers to fasten seatbelts and remain calm. Their professionalism was crucial, serving as a human buffer against panic. In moments like this, the psychological stability of the crew can directly influence survival rates, a fact widely recognized in aviation safety studies. The aircraft itself performed beyond expectations. Aviation engineers were amazed by the structural resilience displayed in the incident. The wings, though damaged, retained partial lift, allowing the plane to glide rather than plummet. The fuselage, despite dents and stress fractures, maintained integrity, preventing catastrophic decompression. Even the engines, which had been partially impaired, produced enough thrust to keep the aircraft moving forward. Each system that remained functional played a critical role, but it was the combination of these surviving systems with the crew's skill that ultimately ensured a safe landing. As the pilots executed the emergency landing, a second layer of complexity emerged: environmental factors. The airport's approach path required careful navigation. Trees, runways, and other obstacles needed to be avoided, all while compensating for asymmetric lift and impaired controls. Gusts of wind added unpredictability, demanding split-second adjustments. In training, pilots practice emergency landings, but rarely under conditions this extreme. The successful touchdown demonstrated not just skill, but a remarkable capacity for adaptive decision-making, choosing the safest path while balancing the physical limitations of the damaged aircraft. In the cabin, the human stories continued to unfold. Families clutched each other, strangers comforted strangers, and passengers who were initially panicked began to notice the calm of the crew. Flight attendants reassured everyone that the landing was imminent, providing instructions with a clear, steady voice. The contrast between the chaos of the collision and the composed guidance of the cabin crew created a sense of controlled survival. Passengers reported that this calm presence helped them focus on actionable steps, fastening seatbelts, securing children, and preparing mentally for the landing, rather than succumbing entirely to fear. Emergency services on the ground were fully prepared, having been notified by air traffic control. Fire trucks, ambulances, and first responders lined the runway, ready for rapid intervention. Even as the plane approached, the coordination between ground personnel and the cockpit remained critical. The captain was informed of wind direction, runway conditions, and optimal touchdown points. This real-time data allowed the pilots to make calculated decisions, including adjusting speed and alignment for the safest possible landing. It is a striking example of how aviation safety relies on an intricate web of human and technological support. The landing itself was tense but precise. The plane touched down with noticeable drag on the damaged side, requiring careful braking to prevent veering off the runway. The pilots managed to maintain directional control despite the asymmetric thrust, bringing the aircraft to a complete stop with minimal incident. Passengers erupted in applause and tears, many embracing those around them. The relief was palpable, a mixture of gratitude for survival and awe at what had just been accomplished. It was a moment that would be remembered for the rest of their lives, a story that would be recounted countless times, each retelling amplifying the extraordinary nature of the survival. Investigators later reconstructed the event in painstaking detail. They analyzed radar data, flight paths, and video footage from both the cockpit and external cameras. The mid-air collision, initially considered potentially catastrophic, was shown to be survivable largely because of a combination of human skill, aircraft engineering, and favorable circumstances. The pilot's decision to prioritize control over immediate emergency descent, the redundancy built into the aircraft, and the quick coordination with ground teams all converged to prevent disaster. Experts emphasized that this was not a simple matter of luck. It was a controlled response to an extreme scenario. Psychologists studying passenger reactions noted a curious phenomenon. While fear was intense in the moment, many passengers reported a sense of heightened clarity. Their perception sharpened and their cognitive functions focused on survival priorities. This aligns with research on acute stress responses, where the brain temporarily shifts from routine processing to survival mode. People notice details they might otherwise ignore, follow instructions more diligently, and engage in rapid problem solving. The combination of fear and focused attention can paradoxically enhance one's chances of survival in life-threatening situations. The aftermath also revealed an extraordinary community response. Families of passengers contacted each other, sharing relief and gratitude. Airline staff praised the pilots and crew publicly, recognizing their exceptional professionalism. Aviation schools used the incident as a teaching case, illustrating how preparation, composure, and technical skill can converge to prevent catastrophe. Media outlets highlighted the story worldwide, framing it not only as a miraculous survival, but also as a testament to human capability under pressure. Perhaps the most lasting lesson from this incident is the power of preparation and teamwork. The pilots' training allowed them to act decisively, the crew's coordination kept passengers calm, and emergency services on the ground ensured rapid response. Each link in this chain was essential. The incident serves as a reminder that while aviation technology is sophisticated, it is the people operating within the system, their knowledge, discipline, and composure that often make the critical difference between disaster and survival. After the immediate crisis had passed, aviation experts began to dissect the incident in meticulous detail. Engineers examined the plane's structural design, particularly the wing spars, hydraulic systems, and fuselage integrity. What became clear was that the aircraft's resilience was not a matter of chance. It was the result of decades of innovation in aviation safety and engineering. Wing spars, the critical load-bearing components of the aircraft, had been reinforced to withstand stresses far beyond what a mid-air collision might typically impose. The fuselage, constructed using advanced alloys and composite materials, demonstrated remarkable resistance to tearing and buckling under pressure. Even with partial control surfaces compromised, the plane's remaining aerodynamic structures allowed for controlled flight. The combination of these design features proved pivotal in preventing a catastrophe. Meanwhile, the pilots themselves became the subject of intense study and admiration. Their ability to maintain situational awareness, process multiple streams of information, and make rapid decisions under extreme stress is considered extraordinary. Flight simulators were later used to recreate the event, testing how other pilots might have responded. In virtually every scenario, only those with the highest level of training and composure were able to replicate a safe landing. Researchers concluded that the incident was not just a testament to engineering, but also an example of human skill operating at its peak. Decision-making, coordination, and precise execution under duress were what ultimately saved lives. The story of survival also resonated deeply with the passengers. Many described the experience as transformative, a moment that permanently altered their perception of safety, risk, and the fragility of life. Interviews revealed that, while the collision itself was terrifying, the professionalism and calm of the flight crew instilled a sense of hope and security. Passengers spoke about the subtle cues they noticed: the pilot's steady voices over the intercom, the precise movements of the crew, and the reassuring instructions to remain seated and secure. These small but critical actions prevented panic and allowed individuals to act rationally despite their fear. Psychologists studying the incident noted that such leadership can significantly reduce the likelihood of injury in emergency situations. One striking aspect of the story is how it highlights the unpredictable interplay between human and mechanical elements. In aviation, redundancy is a core principle. Systems are designed with backups to ensure functionality even in the event of failure. Yet technology alone cannot guarantee survival. It is the pilot's skill, judgment, and composure that translate mechanical reliability into tangible safety. This incident became a textbook case of that principle in action. Even with a severely damaged wing and partial system failures, the aircraft's remaining functionality was enough to allow expert pilots to navigate a successful landing. Every minor decision, adjusting engine thrust, compensating for asymmetrical lift, and coordinating with air traffic control, was amplified by the engineering design that had anticipated partial failure scenarios. The aftermath also prompted broader discussions in the aviation community. Safety boards reviewed regulations for mid-air collision prevention, emergency response protocols, and pilot training programs. Lessons learned from the incident influenced updates to simulator exercises, emphasizing extreme scenarios that might once have been considered unlikely. Engineers also revisited structural standards, testing materials and control systems to ensure that aircraft could survive similar impacts. In effect, this single event reshaped aspects of the industry, reinforcing the importance of preparation, resilience, and adaptability. It became a symbol of both human and technological excellence under pressure. Interestingly, the collision also sparked conversations about the psychological dimension of aviation safety. Studies conducted in the months following the incident revealed that passengers who had experienced the event developed a heightened awareness of emergency procedures, often volunteering feedback on safety demonstrations and contributing to airline training programs. Meanwhile, flight crew members reflected on the importance of mental preparation and stress management. Being able to compartmentalize fear, focus on tasks, and communicate effectively under duress became recognized as skills equally as important as technical flying abilities. The story, therefore, served as a case study in both mechanical and psychological resilience. The incident also brought attention to the broader theme of survival under extraordinary circumstances. From a historical perspective, aviation accidents are rarely single events. They are chains of actions and reactions, human and mechanical, ordinary and extraordinary. This collision illustrated that principle perfectly. The aircraft was damaged, yes, but the pilot's expertise, the co-pilot's support, the crew's composure, and even environmental factors like wind direction all converged in a precise sequence. Each element alone might have been insufficient, but together they produced a miraculous outcome. It was a stark reminder that survival is rarely the result of luck alone. It is often a product of preparation, skill, and situational awareness coming together at the critical moment. On a personal level, the pilot's own reflections added depth to the story. In interviews conducted months later, they emphasized that training and experience were what allowed them to act decisively. One pilot noted, "You don't think about being scared when you're doing your job. You just focus on what needs to be done." The co-pilot echoed the sentiment, highlighting the importance of trust and teamwork. "We were in sync. Each of us knew our responsibilities, and that clarity made all the difference." These reflections underline a key theme. In high-stakes situations, calm, methodical action can turn what seems like inevitable disaster into a story of survival. Even the airline industry recognized the extraordinary nature of the event. While mid-air collisions are often catastrophic, this incident became a symbol of the potential for safe outcomes when multiple layers of preparation, engineering, training, coordination interact successfully. The airline released detailed reports praising both the aircraft's resilience and the crew's professionalism. Safety seminars and conferences cited the event repeatedly, using it as an example of best practices under extreme conditions. Beyond the technical and procedural lessons, the story also served as a morale booster for the aviation community, reinforcing confidence in both human skill and technological reliability. Passengers' stories added another layer of human interest. Many shared how the experience had changed their perspective on life. Simple routines, previously taken for granted, suddenly felt precious. Families reported closer bonds, friends recounted newfound gratitude for shared survival, and some individuals even made life changes inspired by the brush with mortality. These personal narratives transformed the incident from a technical marvel into a deeply human story. It reminded the world that behind every headline of mechanical success, there are lives profoundly affected, lessons deeply internalized, and courage quietly demonstrated. As investigations continued, engineers conducted controlled experiments to validate their findings. Structural tests simulated wing failure and fuselage stress, confirming that the aircraft's design was capable of withstanding significant impact while maintaining basic controllability. Pilots participated in simulations to practice extreme emergency maneuvers, refining techniques that would now be incorporated into training programs globally. Regulatory bodies updated recommendations, emphasizing the importance of maintaining composure, following checklists, and leveraging every available resource during emergencies. The event, therefore, became a catalyst for improvement, pushing the aviation industry toward greater safety and preparedness. As news of the mid-air collision spread, it captured global attention almost immediately. Headlines around the world highlighted the extraordinary circumstances. A fully functional plane, despite suffering severe damage, landing safely and saving every passenger on board. News outlets dissected every aspect of the incident, from the engineering feats to the pilot's heroism, turning an isolated event into a worldwide story of resilience. Aviation forums exploded with discussions, debates, and speculation. Experts praised the design of the aircraft, while enthusiasts marveled at the calm professionalism exhibited by the flight crew. For a time, the incident transcended the usual aviation reporting. It became a symbol of human ingenuity, courage, and the potential for triumph even in the face of overwhelming odds. Airlines and regulatory bodies quickly responded, using the incident as a study for safety improvements. Workshops and seminars were organized to share insights, emphasizing the combination of technical design and human skill required for such a successful outcome. Training modules were updated to include scenarios mimicking the extreme conditions faced during the collision. Emergency protocols were reevaluated, particularly focusing on how pilots and crew can maintain control when critical components fail. Every aspect of the response, from passenger evacuation to pilot decision-making, was scrutinized, documented, and integrated into lessons for the wider aviation community. The plane's survival became not just a story, but a blueprint for enhancing safety worldwide. Passengers, whose first-hand experiences added a deeply human layer to the story, recounted moments of intense fear followed by relief. Many spoke of the initial shock, the deafening sound of the impact, the sudden jolt, the uncertainty of what had occurred. Yet amidst the chaos, the calm and measured voice of the pilots reassured them. Instructions were clear and precise, guiding passengers to remain seated, secure their belongings, and trust the crew's expertise. Psychologists later analyzed these testimonies, highlighting the importance of clear communication during crises. Even when technology is flawless, the human element, calm, authoritative leadership can make the difference between panic and orderly survival. Interestingly, many passengers reported subtle, almost imperceptible cues that reinforced their trust. The steadiness of the pilot's hands, the methodical checks of the co-pilot, and the seamless coordination among flight attendants all contributed to a sense of order amidst chaos. One passenger described noticing a slight adjustment in throttle and wing tilt, which they later learned was the pilot compensating for the damaged wing. Another recalled the flight attendants moving calmly through the cabin, checking straps and seatbelts while offering reassurance. These small but deliberate actions created an environment where panic was minimized, and survival became a collective effort. The incident thus offered valuable insights into crisis management and human behavior under extreme stress. Meanwhile, aviation engineers focused on analyzing the damaged aircraft. They meticulously documented every dent, scratch, and structural anomaly, looking for clues about how the plane had endured such significant trauma. Their findings were remarkable. The composite materials used in the fuselage had absorbed and redistributed the energy of the collision, preventing catastrophic failure. Redundant hydraulic systems maintained partial control, allowing the pilots to manipulate critical flight surfaces despite the damage. The engines, designed for both efficiency and reliability, continued operating under stress, demonstrating that advanced engineering could compensate for some degree of human error or environmental hazard. Each discovery reinforced the lesson that modern aircraft are built not only to fly, but to survive, even under conditions once thought unimaginable. As the story circulated, it began to inspire people beyond the aviation community. Emergency responders, engineers, and even ordinary citizens found in it a universal lesson. Preparation and composure under pressure can create outcomes that defy expectation. Business schools referenced the incident in leadership training, emphasizing decision-making under stress. Military academies highlighted it as an example of strategy, risk assessment, and execution under pressure. The story became a cultural touchstone, illustrating that resilience is not merely about surviving adversity. It is about mastering the environment, leveraging available resources, and trusting one's training. The pilots themselves became minor celebrities in the aviation world. They were invited to speak at conferences, share insights with aspiring aviators, and participate in panel discussions about aviation safety. Yet they remained humble, consistently crediting the aircraft's engineering and the crew's teamwork. One pilot reflected, "It wasn't just me. It was the plane, the systems, the co-pilot, the attendants, all of us acting together. That's why everyone survived." This humility, combined with extraordinary skill, reinforced the narrative that survival is rarely about a single hero. It is the culmination of preparation, coordination, and composure. The broader public, meanwhile, was captivated by the miraculous survival story. Social media amplified the narrative, with videos, interviews, and diagrams explaining the physics of the collision going viral. Educators used the incident to teach students about aerodynamics, structural engineering, and crisis management. Books and documentaries began to appear, chronicling not only the event itself, but also its ripple effects on safety standards and aviation culture. The incident transcended its initial technical interest, becoming a story about human courage, resilience, and the incredible interplay between man and machine. Interestingly, the incident also highlighted the role of luck, or more accurately, the convergence of many small factors that collectively amounted to survival. Wind conditions, altitude, flight speed, and angle of collision all contributed to the outcome. While technology and skill were paramount, these environmental factors created the precise conditions that allowed the aircraft to remain controllable. Experts emphasized that while luck cannot be relied upon, understanding and anticipating environmental variables is an essential part of risk management in aviation. In this way, the incident offered lessons not only in engineering and human skill, but also in situational awareness and adaptive thinking. In the months following the event, safety boards and aviation authorities implemented changes inspired by the collision. Flight simulators incorporated similar mid-air collision scenarios, training pilots to manage extreme aerodynamic challenges. Engineers explored materials and structural reinforcements to further increase survivability. Airlines revised passenger communication protocols, emphasizing the critical role of clear instructions in reducing panic. By turning a near-catastrophic event into a learning opportunity, the aviation industry demonstrated its commitment to continuous improvement, ensuring that future incidents could be managed even more effectively. As the dust settled and investigations concluded, the story of the plane that survived a mid-air collision became more than a remarkable aviation feat. It became a lesson in human ingenuity, courage, and perseverance. The incident highlighted how technology, when paired with training and calm decision-making, can turn what seems like certain disaster into survival. Aviation schools incorporated the case study into their curriculum, emphasizing the critical role of coordination between crew members and the importance of understanding the mechanics of an aircraft under extreme conditions. It was no longer just a story for enthusiasts, it had become a blueprint for resilience in action. One of the most compelling aspects of the event was the role of communication. Pilots, air traffic controllers, and cabin crew all played their part in maintaining situational awareness. Each word, each instruction carried weight, guiding the passengers and crew through chaos. Experts noted that the clarity and precision of these communications were as crucial to survival as the aircraft's engineering. Passengers later recounted that hearing calm, authoritative voices over the intercom helped them control fear and follow instructions without hesitation. This reinforced a universal principle. In any high-stakes situation, communication is not just important, it can be life-saving. The engineering marvel of the aircraft itself also captured global fascination. Aviation engineers conducted months of analysis, examining how the fuselage absorbed impact, how the redundant hydraulic systems functioned, and how the engines maintained thrust despite severe damage. Each discovery provided valuable insights into the limits of aircraft durability and safety. The findings influenced the design of future aircraft, with manufacturers implementing improved materials, reinforced structures, and enhanced system redundancies to ensure survivability in similar scenarios. The plane became an unintentional but powerful ambassador for innovation, proving that meticulous design can save lives in ways that might seem almost miraculous. For passengers, the experience left an indelible mark. Many spoke of a profound sense of gratitude, not just for their survival, but for witnessing human and technological excellence in action. Families reunited, stories were shared, and the event became a personal lesson in resilience. Some passengers described small, fleeting moments that had profound impact: the steady hands of a flight attendant, the subtle adjustments of a pilot, the reassuring calm in the voices over the intercom. These small acts, combined with the aircraft's resilience, underscored a larger truth. Survival is often the sum of countless minor actions executed flawlessly under pressure. In the years that followed, documentaries, books, and interviews ensured that the story remained alive in public memory. It was retold not merely as an aviation anomaly, but as a testament to human resourcefulness. Young pilots studied the incident, engineers referenced it in research, and ordinary people drew inspiration from the courage and composure exhibited during the event. The narrative transcended its technical roots, becoming a source of motivation for anyone facing adversity. It became proof that preparation, skill, and calm under pressure can turn the seemingly impossible into reality. Interestingly, the event also sparked broader discussions about risk, chance, and preparedness. Experts emphasized that while luck played a role, it was the combination of training, communication, and design that truly ensured survival. Risk management strategies across industries took note, adopting lessons from aviation to improve resilience in fields ranging from healthcare to emergency services. The incident became a case study in anticipating failure, mitigating consequences, and responding decisively under pressure. It reinforced a principle applicable far beyond aviation: that systems, both human and mechanical, are most effective when redundancy, coordination, and adaptability are prioritized. The crew, though praised worldwide, remained humble about their roles. The pilots consistently credited the aircraft, the engineers, and their fellow crew members for the successful outcome. Their humility became an integral part of the story's appeal, reminding the world that heroism is often collaborative rather than individual. Flight attendants who guided passengers calmly through the ordeal became unsung heroes, illustrating that every role in a crisis is vital. The narrative shifted from a tale of a miracle plane to a story about people working together, leveraging skill and knowledge to defy the odds. For the aviation community, the incident provided both reassurance and a challenge. It reassured that even under extreme conditions, aircraft and crew could prevent catastrophe. Yet it also challenged engineers, pilots, and regulators to think proactively. What if the damage had been slightly worse? How could future aircraft be designed to endure even more extreme circumstances? These questions drove innovation, inspiring advances in aircraft safety, training programs, and emergency procedures. The story became a living lesson, ensuring that the knowledge gained from one extraordinary event would continue to enhance aviation safety for years to come. Public fascination remained intense. Social media channels, aviation forums, and news outlets continually revisited the event, analyzing diagrams, flight paths, and eyewitness accounts. The incident became more than history, it became part of the cultural lexicon. People were captivated not only by the technical details, but also by the human element: the fear, the calm, the ingenuity, and the resilience. It was a story that resonated on multiple levels: technical, emotional, and inspirational. It reminded viewers that extraordinary outcomes are often possible when preparation meets courage. In reflecting on the incident, one lesson stands out above all: survival is rarely about a single factor. It is never about luck alone, nor technology, nor human courage in isolation. It is the interplay of all these elements, synchronized at precisely the right moment. The plane's survival was the result of superior engineering, effective communication, decisive leadership, and human composure under unimaginable stress. It was a demonstration that when skill, preparation, and courage converge, even the most dire circumstances can end in triumph. For those inspired by this story, it serves as a call to action. Prepare, practice, and stay calm under pressure. Whether in aviation, emergency response, or daily life, the principles that saved this plane are universally applicable. Knowledge, preparation, and coordination can mean the difference between disaster and survival. By studying the actions of those involved and the design that made survival possible, individuals and organizations alike can cultivate resilience in their own lives, ready to meet challenges head-on with confidence and composure. And finally, as we remember the passengers, crew, and engineers involved in this extraordinary event, it's worth noting that such stories are not just about survival. They are about the potential for human and technological collaboration to achieve the impossible. Every dent, every calculation, every instruction contributed to a successful landing that could have easily ended in tragedy. Today, this story stands as a beacon, a testament to preparation, ingenuity, and courage, reminding us that even in moments of extreme danger, survival is possible and sometimes remarkable. So if this story inspired you, take a moment to reflect on your own life. Consider the areas where preparation, calm thinking, and courage could make a difference. Share this story with someone who needs a reminder of what's possible when people and technology work together. And if you're passionate about stories like this, hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more incredible tales of survival, courage, and ingenuity that will leave you inspired every single time. If this story amazed you, don't let it stop here. Hit that like button and subscribe to join us as we uncover more incredible tales of courage, survival, and ingenuity from history and beyond. Turn on notifications so you never miss a story that proves the impossible is sometimes just a matter of preparation, skill, and courage. Share this video with someone who loves inspiring stories, and let's celebrate the human spirit together.